Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Move, where we help you make better decisions and live with fewer regrets. I'm Andy Stanley, and I'll be your guide. And on this episode, we're talking about an invisible, insidious enemy that, if ignored, has the potential to wreak havoc with 100% of your relationships. It makes you difficult to get along with. It'll make it difficult for people to get to know you. But worse, it will make it practically impossible for people to love you. Because if you can't be fully known, you can't be unconditionally loved. So this is a big deal. Today, we're talking about anger. Anger, as you know, is that emotion you feel. Well, you're not going to like this. Anger is the emotion you feel when you aren't getting your way. Or to put it in terms we can all relate to, anger is the emotion we experience when we aren't getting what we're owed, what you're owed. Think about the last time you were really, really angry. Isn't it true there was something you wanted and you weren't getting it, and you were convinced you deserved it? You weren't getting what you deserved. So basically, the other party owed you. There was a debt, and they weren't paying their debt. This is why we use the term payback when we're tempted to get back at someone who's hurt us, betrayed us, ran out on us, refused to pay us. Our natural reaction is to get back at them or to pay them back. Why? Because we feel like they owe us something. There's a debt to be paid. But here's the problem. They may never pay you back. In fact, in most instances, they can't pay you back. The only way to pay you back is to turn the clock back, and nobody's figured out how to do that yet, right? Your dad can't pay you back for leaving when you were a kid. Your ex can't pay you back for the pain he or she inflicted, the years they took from you, some of your best years, right? So what do? What do we do? We have to do something, right? I mean, Don Henley nailed it when he wrote these lyrics years ago. He wrote, "You better put it all behind you because life goes on. You keep carrying that anger, it will eat you up inside." And he's right. It will eat you up inside. But put it all behind you. How do you do that? If we don't, like I said, unresolved anger has the potential to wreak havoc with 100% of your relationships because you carry anger from one relationship to the next. It makes you difficult to get along with, difficult for people to get to know you, which of course makes it difficult for anyone to ever love you. And then there's this. If we don't address our anger, eventually we start to believe that everybody owes us. I mean, you've met people like this. Do you know any chronically angry people? They just can't be pleased. Good is never good enough. Fast is never fast enough. Everybody owes them. Everybody owes them because somewhere in their past, somebody important didn't pay what they owed. They got hurt. And now they're carrying that anger and it's eating them up on the inside. But it's spilling out on everybody around them. Their wrath isn't reserved for an offending party. It spills out on everybody. They become equal opportunity avengers. And you know what? They don't even know it. In fact, the way they see it, it's everybody else's fault. And that person could be you. And you don't know it. You could become that person. You may be becoming that person if somebody in your past hurt you and you're carrying that anger, waiting for them to pay you back. And while you wait, and while your anger impacts the folks that care the most about you and that you care about the most, unbeknownst to you, the person or the people that you despise the most, the ones who hurt you the most, you're going to hate me for this. The people that you despise the most, that hurt you the most, well, you continue to allow them to hurt you because you're letting them hurt you. You're giving them access to your current relationships, your current responses. You've given them a measure of control over your future, even though they're in your past. That's what unresolved anger does. It chains you to the very people you are desperately trying to leave behind. It smuggles people from the past into your future. The Buddha put it this way, maybe you've heard this. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. So, here's the question. And it's a strange question, but I mean it literally. How long do you intend to allow the people who've hurt you to control you? Another week? Another month? Another year? Another season? How long? How about you bring that to an end? What about cutting that chain and leaving them behind, to use Don's words? What if you go ahead and put it all behind you once and for all? Learn from it, but don't be defined by it. Now, of course, the question is that even possible? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to tell you how. You see, anger is like a disease, and the antidote for that particular disease is forgiveness. The Apostle Paul, a first century follower of Jesus, wrote these extraordinary words. Listen to this. Here's what he said to his audience. He said, "Get rid of all bitterness. Get rid of all rage and anger and brawling and slander, along with every form of malice." Just get rid of it. "Be kind and compassionate to one another." And here's the word, forgiving one another. That's the how. "Just as in Christ, God forgave you." To which we all respond, yeah, well, that's easier said than done, and that's true. But the point is, it can be done, and it should be done. And no, those folks who hurt you, they don't deserve it. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it, well, you're forgiving them for you. Now, there's a lot of confusion around what it means to forgive, but forgiveness is really quite simple. Forgiveness is a decision. It's a decision to cancel a debt. To forgive is to decide that the person from your past who hurt you, that they don't owe you anymore. You are canceling their debt. This is so important, and it's so emotional for most of us. I want to break it down into 4 steps, and you may want to write these down later. So here's how it works. The first thing you do is this. You identify who you're angry with. That's usually the easy step, right? But not always. I mean, think about it. Who is really behind your anger? Who took something from you in the past and has not and probably cannot return it? Who has mistreated you or taken advantage of you? You may need to make a list. Step number 2 is this. Determine what those people owe you and be specific. This is the step that most people skip. Remember this, you cannot forgive something you haven't taken the time to identify in the first place. As a result, what people do is they forgive generally, but they don't forgive specifically. So what do I mean by specific? Here's what I mean. If your dad walked out on you when you were young, what specifically did he take from you? If your spouse had an affair, what did he or she specifically take from you? Until you've identified the debt, you are not ready to cancel it. This is why people say, but I've already forgiven him. I've already tried to forgive her. Remember this, general forgiveness does not heal specific hurts. So what did the person or the people on your list, what did they take from you? Think of it this way. What would they need to return in order to put things back the way they were? Is it money? Is it time? A marriage? Be specific. Now, the third step is to simply cancel the debt, which means you decide that the offending party, they just don't owe you anything anymore. This may be as simple as a decision you make quietly in your heart, or you may want to mark the decision with something more tangible, more memorable. I know people who will make a list of what's owed to them, then they put it in an envelope and they burn it, thus declaring that those debts are absolutely canceled. Now, the last step in the forgiveness process is to dismiss the case. Now, this can be the hardest part because for many of us, refusing to reopen the case we're holding against the person that we've been holding against them for years, it's a daily decision, for a while anyway. And the reason, well, we understand the reason because our feelings don't automatically follow our decision to cancel the debt, to forgive. Besides, forgiving someone doesn't erase our memories. I mean, think about it. If we could simply forgive and forget, this whole thing would be a whole lot easier. But that's not how it works. So here's the thing. When those memories of past hurts flood your mind, you don't ignore them. You face them. You feel them. But instead of reopening the case against your offender, instead of another imaginary conversation about what you would like to say or what you would like to do, you take the opportunity in that moment to restate your decision. He doesn't owe me. She doesn't owe me. I've canceled that debt, and I am not reopening that case. Feelings come, feelings go, but the decision to cancel the debt remains. You've chosen to forgive. You've canceled that debt. Forgiving rarely means forgetting, but forgiveness empowers us to keep those memories where they belong. So, one more time. Are you carrying any anger? Are you ready to put it all behind you? Are you ready to be free? Are you ready to forgive? If so, now you know how. And now, it's your move.